So we had a situation at work today. We were trimming olive trees, and we were at a complex. This guy comes out, and he was just as angry as could be because we parked in front of his house to trim the olive tree in front of his house. And he got so upset because we were taking up 2 parking spots, and we said to him very nicely that we need the truck and chipper over here. And the guy just would not let up on us. And it really bothered me, and it kind of reminded me of a story. You know, this is something that happened, probably about 30 years ago when my son, Kalen, was about 10 years old. We took him to the beach. You'll get this story in just a bit here. We took him to the beach, and he was running around the beach, a little 10-year-old kid, and he ran by this woman that was laying in the sand on a beach towel, and she got so angry at him. She yelled at him and she barked at him, don't run around me, da 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 da. So he came back all sulking. He came back and sat down, and we continued to eat our popcorn, and he saw a seagull land close to him, so he threw a piece of popcorn to the seagull. And we sort of wrapped things up and went walking back, and he was carrying the popcorn. And he disappeared. He walked right over to this lady that was sleeping in the sand, and he tossed popcorn all the way around her. He came back to us, and we're walking up. We got up to the top of the hill, and down there at the bottom of the hill, she was flocked with seagulls, and she was screaming, "Get out of here, get out of here." He bust up laughing. So anyway, the moral of the story is sometimes it's better not to get mad. It's better to get even. So, well, let me show you what we did to his tree today. Okay, I did cut it off. Back in the 60s and the 70s, it was a big practice in California to import olive trees from orchards. They'd buy full-size trees, and when they built these complexes and different neighborhoods, quite often the developers would pop in a full-size orchard olive tree. And that's what happened at this complex. But unfortunately, these trees get way, way too big, and they end up growing all over the road and all over the building. So the only thing that you can do is to keep compacting them every single year. And what a mess. Oh my God. This was actually not a bad time of the year to trim these things. The olives were still fairly hard. They were about 3/4 of an inch long. There's a tree that's all finished up. But we had to clean them out on the insides and shape them on the outsides. You can see this one has not been totally cleaned out on the inside yet. That one down there is just about done. A little bit of work up on the left. You can see all the hairs. And it's a real nightmare job. I was up in the bucket with hand pruners, snipping out, and they wanted to reduce the olives as well. So I was reaching down and taking big cuts of the olives, but still trying to leave them full and green. And that's kind of a challenge. You can't get up there and do any work with a chainsaw. You can't get up there. You can do a little bit of handsaw work, but it's real fussy. We're trying to leave them sort of natural, but some of the ones that were really big and really close, they ended up looking kind of sheared. This one's all cleaned out. That one's done. See how that one's looking a little bit more sheared. But it's really hard to leave them very natural and cut them back, with hand pruners all the way around. And these trees, they don't look big, but they were taking a long time. And the bucket filled up with olives and leaves and stuff, and Jorge had a good idea. When you're working in a complex, finding parking is really, really hard. So you have to prepare everything. I put cones out. And interestingly, we found a lot of nests in these trees. And this nest right here, I'm not even sure what kind of a nest it is, but I wanted to show you that some of these nests have got human garbage introduced into the into the nest. That nest had bits of newspaper. Some of them had bits of plastic. And there you can see some bits of plastic that's actually woven into the nest. It's interesting how resourceful these birds can be. There's an interesting one. Hummingbird nests. You can see the olive on the right there to give you a better perspective how tiny it is. But they make just perfect nests. This is a weaver bird, which I believe would be an oriole in our area. And once in a while I find one of these. They're kind of rare. I always leave them. I always leave all the nests that I can, with the exception of squirrel nests. And I can get into that later, but squirrels damage the trees, so unless they're occupied, I always try to take them out to deter the squirrels from chewing on the branches. We run into all kinds of things in trees. I'm glad I spotted him before I ran into him with face full of spider. Oh, gosh. Yep. But, it just keeps it interesting. You have to be very aware. And that's what one of the finished trees looked like. We had 22 trees to do in this complex, and it's... Yeah, as you can probably tell by the frustration in my voice, that olive trees are not trees that I really enjoy working on. They're just way, way too fussy.